Alright, time for another monthly movie recap. Again, I'm sorry, these things, they get fucking postponed and postponed until finally it's been more than a month. But I'm not that far off this time. It's only been like a little over a month, maybe a month and a half. I took some notes just to make sure I don't miss any movies we've watched. I haven't watched as many movies, which is why I've been pushing this one off. But then again, I have more than 4 movies that I'll be talking about here, so I guess that's not entirely true, because there's not always a lot of these, is there? So the first movie I'm going to be talking about today is Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer. Now, this is a movie I bought digitally on Xbox Video. I originally heard of it from the Maniac's YouTube channel, and it's a very interesting movie. It's loosely based on an actual serial killer by the name of Henry Lee Lucas. They changed his name in the movie, although his name is still Henry. And the guy who made the movie said it's more based on the stories he claimed, because Henry Lee Lucas was known for exaggerating and claiming he did a lot of things that he didn't do. So the movie itself is apparently based on those delusional fantasies he came up with about his cases. It stars Michael Rooker, the guy who played Merle in The Walking Dead. That's where I first noticed him. Though Michael Rooker is an actor I do quite like, even though I don't care for the later seasons of The Walking Dead. I did like the first few. But this is a very interesting movie where it follows Henry going around killing people, but also just living a normal life. He's staying with his friend who's in a incestuous relationship with his sister, or at least trying to be. And then Henry catches him raping his sister at one point in the movie, and then stops him with force. But it's a very interesting movie. I quite enjoyed it. It was very dark, and it was very fun to watch. I'm a big fan of true crime and serial killer movies. Obviously, this is a fictionalized account, but it is loosely based on a real person. Very interesting. I quite enjoyed it. Next up, we'll be talking about the 1980 version of Maniac, which is a movie I've been wanting to watch for a while, and, I mentioned the Maniac YouTube channel before. That's actually where he got his name, was from that movie, Maniac. I watched the Elijah Wood version first, and then I went back and watched the other one this time. I would say that the 1980 version is grittier, and, makes you feel more dirty and smutty. But it's not, in first person like the Elijah Wood one is, and you don't, hear all his inner thoughts. It's a very more traditional slasher movie, just being a lot more sleazy and, grimy. I enjoyed it quite a bit. It had kind of a twist ending, where you get to see kind of why he kills people, or part of, why he's so fucked in the head. But, in all honesty, I didn't like it as much as the Elijah Wood version. I know that might be a hot take, but I had a lot more fun with the Elijah Wood version, and it was much more, creepy, and, you get inside his head. Whereas with this one, it's just a killer who puts scalps on mannequins, and had, a prostitute for a mother, and that, fucked him up. The Elijah Wood one just felt a lot more, intense, because you're hearing his thoughts, you're seeing it all in first person. And Maniac had a few shots that were in first person, but it's overall it was just more of a traditional slasher movie. But like the other one, it does show, the normal side of the character. So, there is that too, but I don't know, I like the Elijah Wood one a little bit better. I know, probably a hot take. The next movie we'll be talking about is The Prestige, which a friend of mine showed me. He's been wanting to show me it for a while. And God, was that a good movie. Holy shit. It's about these 2 magicians played by Christian Bale and Hugh Jackman trying to one-up each other. And they start doing this trick where they, the transported man trick. There's a couple of twists in the movie, very interesting twists. Nikola Tesla's in the movie, played by David Bowie. But, one of the twists, they dedicate a lot of the movie to making you feel that twist coming, because they hint at it throughout, but you still don't fucking see it coming, because it's obvious, but it's also not obvious. It's a very well-written movie. I quite enjoyed it. I liked it a lot. And next up, we'll be talking about Guinea Pig, The Devil's Experiment. This is the first in the Guinea Pig series. If you don't know about Guinea Pig, it's an extreme fake snuff film series. It's extreme, splatter, hardcore cinema type stuff that people watch when they like to watch fucked up movies. And I'm going to be honest, although I liked some of the practical effects that were pretty good, in fact, they were very convincing. I had to close my eyes a couple of times, like when they're clamping her skin with the clamp and like when they put the needle in her eye. That made me squirm, I'm not going to lie. But there's no real substance to it. Like, there's no real plot. It's just these three guys torturing a chick for 43 minutes. It's a very short movie. It's only 43 fucking minutes. But I don't know. Like, it was an interesting watch, I guess, for, like, how convincing some of the effects were, and I guess that's kind of the point of the Guinea Pig franchise. But I can see why The Devil's Experiment is not one of the more notable ones. I think people typically talk about Flower of Flesh and Blood. I haven't watched that one yet. I'll go back and watch it eventually. Next movie we're going to be talking about is Hachiko Monogatari, which translates roughly to Hachiko's Story, or Tale of Hachiko. Hachiko, if you don't know, was a Japanese Akita dog who was very loyal to its owner. That's what it's known for. That's why the Akita breed is like the breed known for loyalty. But basically, its owner would walk with Hachiko. He would walk down with his owner to the train station every day before he went to work, and then would walk down when he got off work to walk home with him. And he would do this every single day. Well, then his owner died of a heart attack, and Hachiko still went to the train station every day and traveled, like, really far, like 100 miles or some shit. I don't know the full thing, but I know it's far. Because I think he traveled from Asukasa to Shibuya, which I'm pretty sure is a pretty big distance, to get back to his owner's old house. Again, he would just sit and wait at the train station, and he did that for years until he died. And it's really sad. They took inspiration from it when they did the episode of Futurama about Fry's dog doing the same thing. Hachiko is like a really sad story. Like, it's just a good boy waiting for his owner. It's definitely a movie if you're in the mood to watch, like, kind of like a more like heartfelt, dog movie if you like dogs. If not, then it's probably not the movie for you, but I quite enjoyed it. And Hachiko himself is like a national treasure in Japan. He's a very good dog. They also did a US remake called Hachi, starring Richard Gere, and I've seen that one before years ago, but I knew it was based on a true story, but I had never seen the Hachiko version before, and I didn't know all of the details back then. Alright, now the last one isn't actually a movie that I hadn't previously seen, but it's a cut of a movie I hadn't previously seen. And that's the Watchmen director's cut. I really liked the Watchmen movie. The TV show's god-awful. The comic's still good. I think the movie is actually a little bit better than the comic, personally. Again, probably another hot take. But Watchmen is a dark, like, subversion of the superhero genre, where, again, I don't really like superheroes, but I love Watchmen. It has a lot of characters who each have their own moral codes, which are all drastically different. Mostly the ones you get to see are Ozymandias and Rorschach. And it's another thing that I brought up in my Death of the Author Red Eye Raw, because the creator says that Rorschach is someone who you're not supposed to sympathize or agree with, but I think Rorschach's great. He's my favorite character, and I think he's way more morally sound than Ozymandias. But it also deals with the whole, needs of the many versus needs of the few argument. And the comic was written back during the Cold War, so it was dealing with a lot of the Cold War and the Red Scare that followed. It's a fascinating comic, but I do think the movie's even better, and the director's cut is definitely better than the theatrical cut. You get to see a few more details here and there, like the old Night Owl's death scene isn't in the theatrical cut. And I think the sex scene is longer, the one when they're on the Archimedes. That was interesting. It was already a pretty long scene. Maybe it's not longer. It's been a minute since I've watched the theatrical cut, I must confess. I do know that the scene with old Night Owl's death wasn't in the theatrical cut, though. Anyway, that's all I really have to talk about today. Hopefully, you guys have a good one. This has been Fugitive Red Eye. Toodles.